Hey everybody, it's Steph Davis here from FlipThisWholesaler.net, and I've got a case study to share with you guys today that I think you'll find helpful if you're looking for a cheap and easy way to find motivated seller leads. So just to give you a little bit of background on the situation, I had a cash buyer contact me a couple of days ago asking if I had any deals in a specific zip code in Clearwater, Florida, which is about a half an hour drive from where I live in St. Pete. Now, he told me he was looking to buy another rehab in that area, in that specific zip code ASAP, and after talking with him for about 10 minutes or so and then doing some quick online research, I found out that this guy's buying properties with cash one at a time, fixing them up himself while living in the property, and he's paying about 80% of market value, which is a bit higher than most of the investors I sell to, which means to me that if I can find this guy a deal in this area, I can sell it to him at a higher price, which means more profit for me, and that would make a win-win situation for both of us. So since I was not at all familiar with this zip code in Clearwater, this neighborhood area in Clearwater, I decided to take a drive out there and do a little bit of driving for dollars. I'm sure you guys have heard of this before. It's one of my favorite ways to find leads, and I've gotten some great deals over the years from doing this. So I spent a little over an hour driving for dollars in this zip code, and I just wanted to share the process with you guys as well as the results from that day of driving around to show you just how easy and how powerful this strategy can be. So like I mentioned, this is a strategy that's one of my favorite ways to find not only motivated seller leads, but also cash buyer leads, which I'm going to show you that here in just a second. It's a great way to get to know your farm area, what I call a farm area. If you guys have been following me for any length of time, you probably know that my suggestion when you're just getting started is that you choose just one area, whether it be a zip code or a neighborhood, and get to know it like the back of your hand. And driving for dollars is a great way to do that. What you're going to end up with if you spend, say, an hour or 2 hours driving through your farm area, you're going to end up with a small, usually 10, 15, 20 leads, sometimes more, sometimes a little bit less, but you're going to end up with a small but a very valuable list. Anybody can go out and purchase an absentee owner list or a pre-foreclosure list, but this is a list that not everyone has. This is a list that you're going to actually have to go get in your car and drive around, and you write down the addresses, and it's a small but it's a very valuable list. So what are you looking for when you're out driving for dollars? Well, number one, you're going to want to look for vacant, rundown, abandoned houses. Okay, a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, if the house is in disrepair and there's no one living in it, the chances are good that the owner of the property might be willing to get rid of it, to get it off of their hands. So you're going to want to be looking for vacant and abandoned, run-down houses. And what I do is I have sheets. They're basically driving for dollars sheets, and I just jot down the address. And you could do this, type it in your phone if you want to. I've always just brought these sheets around with me and written it down, but I write down the address and then just some notes, if the property is run down, or if I just kind of give a brief description, because if I just write down the address, if I just make a list of addresses, then when I get home I have no idea why I wrote the property down. So I look for vacant, abandoned, rundown houses, and like I said, I just jot down the address and maybe a brief description of the property. For sale by owners, I have gotten some great deals over the years from driving for dollars and just writing down, if I see a for sale by owner sign in someone's yard, just jotting down the phone number and the address and giving that person a call. So I'm looking for vacant and abandoned houses for sale by owners. The other thing that I do while I'm out driving around is I look for recently rehabbed homes, and you can usually tell if it's the house, and a lot of times they will have a realtor sign in front of it, but you can usually tell if there's a realtor sign in front of it and the house has been freshly painted, a new roof, nice landscaping. So I also write those addresses down, and because those are potential, a lot of times those are rehabbers, who have bought the property, fixed it up, it's now for sale. Those are potential cash buyers. So that is another thing that I'm looking for when I'm driving around. And then for rent signs, I always jot down for rent signs. I write the phone number on the for rent sign and the address. Those also, landlords are a great source for your buyers list. So this was the result. Like I said, I was out for probably, I don't know, maybe an hour and 15 minutes, something like that, just driving up and down the streets in the neighborhood where this the cash buyer who called me, I looked his name up and found the properties that he has recently bought and sold, and just kind of drove around in that vicinity. So what I ended up with after about an hour and 15-ish minutes was 29 leads. 4 of them were for sale by owner. 16 of them were vacant / abandoned rundown properties. And then there were 8 freshly rehabbed homes with for sale signs in them and 1 for rent sign. All right, so now that I've got this list of 29 leads, what do I do with them? So as far as the for sale by owners, like I said, I just jot down the property address and the phone number, and then when I get home, I give the sellers a call, find out what they're asking for the property, and if there is any type of motivation there. So that's pretty straightforward. As far as the recently rehabbed homes, what I want to do with those, and again, the recently rehabbed homes, those are going to be potential leads for cash buyers to add to my cash buyer list. So what I want to do is find out who owns the property and then see if I can find their contact information and give them a call and see if they're looking for more deals. So I'm just going to show you really quickly an example of how one of the properties that was recently rehabbed and how I was able to contact the owner of that property, and the address is 1324 Parkwood. Now, I'm on the Pinellas County Property Appraiser website, where I can just go in, type an address in, and it's going to give me the owner's information. Depending on where you're at, you might have this information available to you, you might not. My suggestion, if you haven't done this already, if you don't know which of your public records what public records are online for you to access in your county, you can go to N as in Nancy, NETR online.com, and just type in your county, and it will give you a list of all of the public records for your county that are online. So again, I'm in the Pinellas County Property Appraiser, and I'm just going to do an address search. And so this is one of the addresses that I found that had been, I believe this one was had a realtor sign in front of the house, and it had clearly been recently rehabbed, had a brand new roof, new paint, new landscaping, all of that. So it's 1324 Parkwood. So I'm just going to do a search, and I see here that the owner is Harbor Property Services LLC. So I can approach this one of 2 ways. If I click here and open up the file, it gives me the owner's mailing address. So I could send them a letter if I wanted to, but I prefer to just get a phone number and call them. It's just easier that way. Plus, I don't have to spend money on a stamp. So what I do, you guys have probably seen some of my videos where I do this before, is the first thing I do is I just go into Google and I just do a Google search for the company name and see if I can find their phone number that way. So I'm just going to put this into Google, and if you scroll down here, actually I think I had to put in Clearwater. I put Harbor Property Services LLC Clearwater, and this right here, if you can see this, gives their phone number, just like that. So that's how I approach finding the cash buyers. I just find out who the owner is, do a Google search for the company name, and then try and find their phone number. And like I said, if I'm not able to find their phone number, I could always send them a letter instead. All right, so that's what I do with the recently rehabbed leads. As far as the vacant, abandoned, rundown properties, what I want to do is find out who the owner is, do a little bit of research about what's going on with that property, which I'm going to show you here in a second, and then if it seems like a viable lead, contact the owner, either send them a direct mail piece, or if I can find their phone number, give them a call. So a lot of times what you're going to find, and you'll see here my the vacant, abandoned properties that I found this time driving for dollars. There are a lot of them that are bank-owned properties. All right, I'm not going to bother sending a letter if it's a bank-owned property because it's basically a waste of time. So the first thing that I do Again, just like with the recently rehab leads, is I'm going to take the property address and find out who the owner is. If the owner is a bank, I'm just going to disregard that lead. It's going to end up on the MLS. It would be a complete waste of time to try and send them a letter. So I'm going to just show you an example here of, let me see, this was one of the abandoned properties that I found while driving around, and it was 1434 Overley. And I'm going to click submit. And you see here that it is USA Housing and Urban Development. So this is a HUD home. I'm not going to bother sending a letter to them. Now, if you are in a county where you can't just go online like I can and do a search for the property address and find out who the owner is, what you can try doing also is just do a Google search for the address. And a lot of times, or most of the time, if that property is a bank-owned property and you do a search for the address, you're going to find either the Zillow or Trulia or Redfin listing for it. So if I go into Google and I put in, oops, not that, if I put in 1434 Overley, and I scroll down here, you see the Zillow, here it is listed on Zillow. And if you click on the listing, you can see that it is a foreclosure home. All right, so that's another way that you can do it, is just if you don't have the capability of doing an address search to find out who the owner is, you can just go into Google, and if it is a foreclosure, you can usually the Zillow listing or another listing will pop up. All right, so for the vacant, abandoned, rundown property leads where it is not owned by a bank, what I want to do with those leads is, first of all, find out who the owner is, find out their mailing address, their contact information, and then what I do, and I'm able to do this in my county. You may or may not be able to do this research for the county that you're in, but I do a little bit of research on the property to kind of find out what's going on and see if it is a viable lead. If it is, then I will send them a letter, or if I can find their phone number, give them a call. So I'm just going to give you an example here. This, let me see, let me do a search here. This was an abandoned property. It's 1320 Woodbine. So I see that the owner's name is Barbara Joyce. I'm going to click on the parcel info. So it gives me her mailing address. If I, decide that this is a lead that I wanted to pursue, this is where I could mail her a letter. But before I do that, what I do is I go into the county clerk website for Pinellas County, and on the county clerk website, you can find that is where deeds are recorded, mortgages and liens. If there's a lis pendens, if the property is going into foreclosure, you can find that. You can find out all types of information about a property by going into the county clerk website. And again, this may be something that you are able to research in your county, and you might not be able to do this. If you can't do it, then you can just go ahead and send a letter either to the actual physical address of the property, or if you can find the owners, if their mailing address is different from the physical address of the property, send it to their mailing address. But I like to do a little bit of research just to save myself time, so I'm not wasting time and energy and money on stamps sending letters to leads where nothing is going to come of it. What I do is I go into the county clerk website for Pinellas County. And what I do first is I look at the legal description here. If you see, it says the legal description is Pine Ridge Block B Lot 15. So I'm going to go and do a search for this owner's name in the county clerk website. So I'm just going to paste this in here, and that is going to pull up all of the information on this particular owner and all of the properties that she owns or has owned. And what I do is I see here where it says description. I'm going to look for the legal description that I just found over here on the property appraiser website, which again is Pine Ridge Block B Lot 15. And this is important if it is an owner who owns a whole bunch of properties or has bought and sold a whole bunch of properties. You want to make sure that you are looking at the files that correspond to the property that you are interested in. And again, this one is Pine Ridge Block B Lot 15. So if I go here, you can sort it by clicking on, like, I can just sort the results by the date that they were filed, by the legal description, which is what I want to do, and I want to just focus on those the legal description of that pertains to this particular property, which is right here, the Pine Ridge, and you see here the LP, that means list pending, so this property is in some stage of pre-foreclosure. You see the deeds are listed here. Mortgages, you can actually see, if you click on this icon here, you can see the amount of the mortgage that was taken out on it, $144,000. So basically what I do is I just kind of try and get an idea of what is going on with the property. And if I, do some research here and see that, let's say I would need to get this, or let's say that this property is worth $150,000 retail, and they just took out a loan, they refinanced and took out a loan for $140,000, and they are, behind in payments, and there's a list pendants filed. I'm not going to mail to them. I'm not going to mail to someone who basically owes, they owe basically what the property is worth. So I just do, and this only takes me, maybe a couple of minutes, because I know what to look for. And, if you're looking at this and you're completely confused, it takes a while. It took me a long time to be able to navigate my way through both this site, the county clerk website, and the property appraiser website. But if you take some time, if you have these resources available to you in whatever county you're in, if you take some time and learn how to kind of sort through this information, it can be extremely valuable, and you can learn a ton just doing searches on these websites. So if I, once I do this research, if it looks like it is a viable lead and something that could possibly turn into a deal, then I will, get the seller's mailing address and send them a direct mail piece, or if I can get their phone number, just give them a call. So these were the final results of my driving for dollars, the hour or so that I spent driving for dollars. Of the 4 FSBO, the for sale by owners leads that I got, 3 of them were unmotivated. They were asking way too much. And then there was one that I left a message. I haven't heard back from them. I'll follow up in a couple of days. Of the recently rehabbed homes, the potential cash buyer leads, I ended up with, out of 8, there were some of them that didn't answer their phone. I think there was one who said he's not interested in buying any more properties. But out of those 8, I was able to speak to 4 investors, and 4 of them are cash buyers, and they are interested in buying more properties. So I added them to my buyers cash buyer database. Of the 16 vacant, abandoned, rundown homes, 8 of those were REOs, which I did nothing with. 2 of them, after doing some research on the county clerk website, they were over leveraged, so I did not do anything with those. 5 of them could potentially be deal. So I have 5 letters going out to those folks. And one of them I found when I went to the county clerk website and I did a search for this particular person to see what was going on with that property. And I'm not going to show you the example here because I'm hopefully this is going to turn into a deal, and I don't want to give away my lead, but when I went to the county clerk website, I did a search for this person's name, and the only thing that came up there was the deed to this property. There's no mortgage on the property. There are no liens against it. This person, and the other thing was that when I searched on the property appraiser website to see their mailing address, they live in California, so it's an investor from California. They bought the property, I think it was 8 years ago. They paid cash for it. They bought it on the cheap. So they own it free and clear. It's vacant now. It needs a whole ton of work. So when I saw that, I kind of saw dollar signs. That's a great lead to me. So I actually was able to, through some Google searching and some online detective work, I was able to find this person's cell phone number, and I gave him a call, and we are currently in negotiations. I don't know. I'm supposed to hear back from him tomorrow. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere, but it's looking promising. So Those are the results. And again, this was just an hour that I just hopped in my car, drove, 30 minutes and spent an hour driving around. This is something that anyone can do as long as you have a car and a couple bucks for gas. And again, you're going to end up with most times, a small-ish list, but it's a very valuable list. And not only can you find, possible leads for motivated sellers, but you can build your buyers list. And then also you can get a great education on an area. If you're not familiar with an area, it's just a great way to educate yourself. So, I hope you guys found this helpful. For those of you, I get emails all the time from folks who are on a shoestring budget. They don't have a lot of money to, say, put towards a costly marketing campaign, a direct mail campaign, or even bandit signs. This is something that anybody can do, like I said, as long as you have a car and a couple bucks for gas. But if you get in a habit of doing this, maybe 1 or 2 weekends out of the month, you're going to end up with some very valuable leads that will hopefully put some money into your pocket. So anyway, hope you guys found this this video helpful. If you have any questions, if you're watching this on YouTube, I do have comments disabled. If you have a question that you would like to ask, or a comment, or any input, you can go to my website. It's flipthiswholesaler.net, and feel free to leave a comment, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. So that's all for today. Hope you guys have a great afternoon, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.